Hardcore cinephiles can be quite weird when it comes to sequels of classic movies from decades ago. You can get a set of fans rabidly defending every frame of the sequel from harm and criticism, but also you can get those who are utterly dismissive of the new film for insignificant reasons. I'm not a fanboy of any film franchise, not anymore, so in spite of being a big fan of the Halloween movies, I definitely wasn't going to be eating up everything the filmmakers threw of the new one. I tend to be quite a cynical film goer, and it's bad for your enjoyment of a movie. So I told myself not to be too critical. Go in with an open mind, go in knowing this is a sequel in a long line of sequels of 80s slasher flicks and nothing more. And though I do have some issues with Halloween 2018, it fails to capture the spirit of the original with its lack of subtlety and genuine creepiness, favouring gore and guts of atmosphere. But I mean, which sequel did capture the original spirit? At the end of the day, I enjoyed it. I did think it was an entertaining movie. This review does contain spoilers. So as most know, this movie ignores everything in the Halloween universe except the original, picking up 40 years after Laurie Strode's traumatic experience in which she is now a loner weirdo who is damaged by the babysitter murders. She's gone all out Sarah Connor though, prepping for Michael Myers' inevitable return through firearm training and putting Home Alone style booby traps all over her house. Her daughter's relationship with her is rocky due to a hectic upbringing, but her granddaughter is much warmer to her. Michael obviously escapes during a transfer from one mental facility to another, funnily enough the day before Halloween, and goes on another killing spree, eventually coming face to face with the one that got away. This movie is flooded with references to previous Halloween movies. There's so many all throughout the film. Some are cooler things that make you smile, like Michael bumping into a kid on the street, harking back to Halloween 2, and a set of trick-or-treaters wearing the same costumes as a group from a significant scene from Season of the Witch. Some actually made me laugh out loud. The best of the bunch was probably towards the end. In the original Halloween, Michael is shot and falls off a balcony where he lies motionless, presumably dead, but when Loomis, the original doctor, looks down, he is gone. In this one, Laurie and Michael are engaged in a fisticuffs and then he throws her off a balcony, and it was quite a height, which makes you think, hey, she might be dead. But a momentary distraction sees Myers turn around, and when he looks back, Laurie's gone. Good stuff. There's a lot of these kind of subverted callbacks to previous films that lovers of this series will enjoy. Some of the callbacks didn't work though. The Happy Halloween one, for instance, where Laurie's face appears against the black background before she stabs Michael. I found it cheesy and the lighting looked artificial. And to be honest, it felt like the movie was overloaded with callbacks. In fact, the entire film itself is a callback when you think about it. No new ground is covered, and it's pretty much a remake of the original, covering all of the same major beats, a bit like The Force Awakens took so much from A New Hope, it was pretty much an inferior rehash. Of all the Halloween sequels, it could be argued that this one, more than any other, adds nothing new to the table. There's so many references that you start to ask, what exactly is this film's identity? Does it revel in being an inevitable, inferior version of the original? Halloween 2 was the one in the hospital and started the sister angle. 6 did the Thorn cult. H20 already covered Laurie's trauma. What does Halloween 2018 cover? What will it be remembered for? Because for sure it doesn't have lasting impact. I really wasn't thinking about it after I'd seen it, as you do with great films. In terms of its narrative, the movie is a little uncertain. Some plot threads go nowhere, and there are characters who feature a lot in the opening stages, like the dude with the cowboy hat and the granddaughter's boyfriend. But they just randomly disappear so abruptly I wouldn't be surprised if there were major scenes cut out. The characters that remain are pretty unmemorable, aside from Laurie herself of course. One guy I was a big fan of was the black kid that was being babysat around halfway through the film. His lines were golden, and apparently it was all improvised. It was hilarious when he complained that there was a guy with a fucked up face staring outside his room, and his insistence that his favourite babysitter chooses her boyfriend to investigate instead of her suggests this guy has seen his fair share of horror movies, as further suggested by his quick, "oh shit," at seeing the shape and then running out of the house and completely out of the film. Some say he is still running to this day. The best thing about the movie was Myers himself. None of the sequels, not one, got the shape right in terms of the way he looked and moved, and using shot composition, shadow and lighting to make his standing in the corner of a frame creepy and spooky. But this one knocked it out of the park. They got Nick Castle back, the guy who played Michael Myers in the original, and he was awesome. The way he walked, his frame upright, direct and with purpose. The mask was great as well. It looked like the original. In fact, I heard it actually is the original one, only worn out looking. This really felt like the Michael Myers from the original, not the bumbling dope that we've often had to endure from a lot of the Halloween movies. His behaviour too was interesting. The Halloween movies, in their laziness and reducing Myers to a stock slasher villain like Jason, made him dumb and simply walking around stabbing people. They forgot that in the original he intentionally trolled with people, and in this one he takes some precious time out of his schedule to carve a pumpkin head out of a man's head and to dress a corpse up in a bedsheet, another nod to the original. There were some memorable scenes in this movie. My two favourites were one where there is a long take following Michael walking around doing trick-or-treating, entering different households and playing Peeping Tom. The widescreen dolly shot at waist height is so vintage Carpenter, and it was curious and voyeuristic, accompanying Michael on his little warm-up, which involves killing two women in the same shot in the space of a few minutes. The other was a kill in which there's these set of motion lights or something that keep turning on and off, and the unmoving Myers draws closer and closer to his increasingly bemused victim, eventually going for the kill. It was classic Halloween, made even more effective by the praise hysterical and frightened acting, which was some of the best in the film. The music was top-notch. John Carpenter returned with his synth machine, and he had help from his son and stepson, I think, and they delivered a brilliant update on the score. A wonderful mix of old and new. There's enough instances of the classic theme, but also some great new ones, the highlight being The Shape Hunts Allison. I will say though, maybe a nitpick here because I should be grateful that the music is as good as it is, but it doesn't really mould the atmosphere like the original does, with pieces like Haunted House, which offer a creepy vibe. The music is cool, but I wonder whether it could have been used a bit more effectively in order to build a more Halloween-esque atmosphere, because that is one of the most gaping flaws of the film, in that it looks great, it sounds great, but it's missing that feel. Some of the dialogue was sickeningly clunky. It's a very exposition-heavy film, and there's so many scenes that would have gone better had the dialogue gone unspoken. At the end, when they trap Myers in the house, for example, and Laurie's daughter says something like, "No, it's not a cage, it's a trap." What's the point? You know. And Myers' doctor, who bizarrely becomes a killer himself after it's revealed he became obsessed with Michael and unlocking him, throughout the film until the reveal comes off as Loomis is light. And there's a scene where Laurie in a meta fashion says to him, "You're the new Loomis." Talk about on the nose. And besides, that's a pretty disrespectful way to speak about the man who saved your life. Did anyone notice how the granddaughter doesn't ever stop to ask about her dad, who is executed by Michael, or her mother asking about her husband? They just seem to show no regard for his life, like they forgot he existed. It actually highlights an issue in that none of the deaths have any emotional impact. The characters who are killed are ones we haven't grown close to or care about, and when they are bumped off, it's like they fade out of existence. And I already mentioned the boyfriend and cowboy man who disappear from the movie. These sure were some unfocused, weird decisions made for the film. Interestingly, the movie chooses not to explore what exactly Michael is, whether he is a man, a spectre, evil incarnated. There's two intrusive journalists in the beginning of the movie who try to look for clues and work out Michael, get to know the man behind the mask. They're quite annoying and pretentious in their assumptions, and I think it's possible they're supposed to represent the audience, always attempting to figure out what Michael is and what his motives are, and they're given a slap in the face when the two are unceremoniously bumped off. Even Laurie probably gets it wrong when she says, "He's waited for me," since there's no evidence to suggest this. seeing as though it was the doctor who intentionally drove Michael to Laurie's home. On Michael's side, it seems coincidence that the two ended up meeting up. Is it me, or was there a bit of a gay thing going on in the movie? A little bit of an agenda of sorts? I noticed it a few times, like the son complaining about hunting and instead wanting to dance. It stuck out like some attempt to dismantle, what do they call it these days, toxic masculinity. Then there's the boyfriend acting gay with his mate and going to Halloween dressed as Bonnie and Clyde with the genders reversed. The men do get an overall bad rap in this film, and there is a lot of that girl power thing that's surged recently going on in this flick too. I don't know, it was intentional. There was a bit of that going on in there. Halloween is a serviceable film. They get a lot right, and it is entertaining. It doesn't quite live up to the hype, Carpenter, Castle and Curtis all returning, but it was enjoyable, made with clear love for the original. I think fans of the Halloween franchise should love it, and there's enough in the movie for those that aren't vested in the franchise also to enjoy it. I give it a 6.5. Nah, it's 7 out of 10. Yeah, it was a good movie. A much better Halloween sequel than we could have hoped for.